إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا فإنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. عباد الله، إن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. I bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his last and final messenger. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he should be praised. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear him and protect yourself from his wrath and anger by abiding by what he has made obligatory and refraining from what is prohibited. And do not die except in a state of submission, in a state of Islam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say the truth. Say what is correct. If you do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would rectify and correct your actions. And whomever obeys Allah and His Messenger, then he has already attained the ultimate success. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the best of speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran. And the best of guidance is the guidance of His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are newly innovated matters in this religion. Whatever is innovated in this religion will lead you astray, and whatever will lead you astray will lead you to the hellfire. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ. O you who believe, this ummah of yours is one ummah. إِنَّ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Truly you are one ummah, one nation, one religion, one faith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and I am your Lord, so worship me. We all hear this, and we try to advocate it. But the question is, do we feel it? And do we act upon this feeling? When I say do we feel it, any time we hear of an incident happening to other Muslims, whether it is in our city or the country that we live in, or in a distant country, every time we hear of a child unlawfully or wrongly being killed who's a Muslim, do we feel that that child is the same as our child? Do we feel the pain of the father and the mother that has lost that child? Every time we hear of homes being burnt, do we feel like it's our own homes? Do we feel the zeal? When we hear of lands being stolen and taken away, do we feel that same sensation and fear of what we're going to do next? And if we do we act on it? And yes, I'm talking about this because a few days ago of a statement that was made about Khutbah al-Aqsa, when a declaration was made, an illegitimate one, in an attempt to legitimize a unlawful, illegitimate occupation. But it doesn't matter whatever claims they make, whatever statements they make. What is truth is truth. What is reality is reality. And the reality is that masjid in Al-Aqsa was built by Muslims for Muslims and will remain to be for Muslims and will come back to be for Muslims. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed in the Quran and has taken the Prophet ﷺ and has made it part of our religion. And he showed us the importance of this place when he subhanahu wa ta'ala took the Prophet from Mecca in the nightly journey to the Aqsa. Why? To lead the other prophets in that masjid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could take him away up to Allah, to him from Mecca, but he didn't. He took him to Al-Aqsa to signify its importance. And then he took him from that place and elevated it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the 5 daily prayers were revealed and made obligatory. Masjid al-Aqsa is one of the 3 masajids that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's okay for us to travel to as an act of worship to pray in it. And so it's no wonder that we value this masjid and this spot very much. When I say it was built by Muslims for Muslims, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari rahimahullah, as mentioned Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, has asked the Prophet ﷺ, what was the first masjid built? The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Masjid al-Haram. So Abu Dharr said, Thumma ay, then which one? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. And then Abu Dharr inquired, كم كان بينهما? How much of time was between the first, when it was built, and the second? The Prophet ﷺ said, 40 سنة, 40 years. So who built Al-Masjid al-Haram? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And what was Ibrahim? ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. But verily Ibrahim was not a Jew, nor a Christian, but he was a Muslim, a submitter, Hanifa, a person who's on the straight path, that's away from the wrong path. And that same advice, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he ordered his children. وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ ووصى بها إبراهيم وبنيه ويعقوب يا بني إن الله اصطفى لكم الدين فلا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he gave that advice to his children. His children were who? Ishaq and Yaqub. That Allah has chosen this religion for you, so do not die except in the state of Islam. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam built al-Haram for the Muslims to worship Allah, and then built Masjid al-Aqsa, whether he built it by himself or with Ishaq and Yaqub, it makes no difference, they were all Muslims. And so it was built by Muslims for one reason, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it will constantly be remaining in the hands of Muslims. However, we have to ask what happened afterwards. And to truly understand what happened afterwards, we have to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed natural laws to work in specific ways. Laws that do not become replaced. Universal laws that do not deviate. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَن تَجْدَ لِسُنَّةِ فَلَن تَجْدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَن تَجْدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You will never find the natural laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be replaced, nor you'll find these sunnah, natural laws and mechanisms in place, they would deviate. So what am I talking about? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. That I have written in the books that were sent to messengers, the Zabur, And the book, which is the Lawh al-Mahfuz, that belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has written in it everything from the beginning of time to the end, that the land will be given to His pious servants. But this is the point. Will be given to His pious servants. It's because the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His aid is only deserving for the individuals who are pious. As a group, there will always be individuals who are not. But as a group, as an ummah, when they are pious, they get and receive the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِن تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهَ يَنْصُرْكُمْ. If you aid and support Allah, He will aid and support you. Now, what does it mean to aid and support Allah? Allah doesn't need our own aid and support, but it means if you aid and support the religion of Allah by abiding by it, by practicing it, by protecting it, by calling to it, and supporting and aiding the messengers in that path, He will support you. Otherwise, we don't get that support. Otherwise, victory would be to whomever has power. And if you want to look through history, specifically at Masjid al-Aqsa, this holds true. Let's look at it quickly in the next few minutes. In Masjid al-Aqsa, after it was occupied by the Muslims at that time, and we have to understand what Muslims means. It means individuals who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why all the messengers sent by Allah are Muslims. This is why all the followers that followed their teaching, their true teachings, not their fabricated and readjusted and redesigned teachings, but the true teachings, who follow these messengers, they are Muslims. When Yusha ibn Nun was leading Bani Israel after the death of Musa alayhi salam, and overall they had reached a level of piety that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported them, and they had the Aqsa once again. Allah supported them. Jump a few years later, things became different. As an ummah, they deviated from the teachings of their prophets. They stopped obeying the commands. They started sinning to the point that sin was obvious in the community. That was the majority of individuals, a lack of piety. They lost it. And then once again, when they were kicked out, however, they reached a level after being tested several times. And this is the story of Talut and Jalut. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent them the king to lead them back into that land. And one of the soldiers was Dawood alayhi salam. And so it was Dawood and Sulaiman that rebuilt the Aqsa after it has been destroyed. And this was mentioned in the Quran, by the way. In Surah Al-Isra, Surah Bani Israel, in that first page at the bottom. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them and informed them that تُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُوَنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. He was telling Bani Israel, you are going to cause mischief and disobedience twice. The first time happened, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him victorious. This is when they became pious and entered Al-Aqsa again, and it was rebuilt. However, the second time happened after years, and they became disobedient and left the teachings and became defiant. They lost it again. It was never regained by the Muslims again until the time of Umar ibn Khattab. It had to be Muslims, ones who were obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they were supported and aided by Allah. But what happened after a few years, and perhaps a few centuries? Perhaps the Muslims started becoming defiant again as a population. We lost it again. Until as a population, we became pious again. It was taken back by Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. And then it happened again. We became defiant as a total ummah, the majority. And then we lost it. So we do know what is going to happen next and what is necessary. And this is what I really want to talk to you about. the practical actions, the practical plan that we need to take in order to make sure that the Aqsa comes back to the Muslims. It's not a debate of whose rights it belongs to. We know whose rights it belongs to. What is happening in there is the largest and biggest form of ethnic cleansing ever seen in history. When an entire population is being replaced forcefully, land being taken illegally and unlawfully. And what's the funny part is that people are being accused for defending their lands that they're terrorists. But nonetheless, what is our plan? There are short-term plans we have to conduct and long-term plans. In terms of short-term plans, 4 things that come to my mind very quickly. The first is that we should never despair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُمْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. وَلَا تَهِنُوا, do not weaken. وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, do not be saddened. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ, and you will have the upper hand if you are truly believers. We should never despair, but rather we should believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in His promise that if we do what we have to do, He will support us. And that's all we have to do, what is in our ability. And we have to be realistic about it. Each region has things within their abilities. These are for people like us. What should we do? 1, never despair. 2, is to always make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the right of our brothers and sisters. This is the right upon ourselves and our duty to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we have to realize that victory does not come from the earth and people who do it, but rather the madad wal nusra. And success and aid comes from above. وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Victory is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we should make that dua. But as we're doing it, we need to make sure that we repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To make sure that this dua is accepted. To try to pick the times which are more favorable in its acceptance. In our sujood. In qiyam al-layl. In the time between the iqamah and the adhan. And there's so many different times that are considered of a more highly likable chance of dua being accepted. Silah al-mu'min, the weapon of the believer, it is the strongest weapon anybody has. In fact, the prophets and messengers used that weapon and invoked and asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His names and attributes because they know the only person that can change anything is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only thing we do is seek the means. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that allows these means to be successful or not. So we need to seek the means and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third thing we can do is whenever we get a chance to donate for that cause, whether it is for the support of our brothers and sisters over there, or a donation for literature that would propagate the correct information, or any other cause for that support. It is really important for us to do that. And the fourth thing we can do in terms of short term is to be vocal about it. Perhaps even protest. But as we're being vocal and protesting, it's important at the same time that we fortify and strengthen ourselves with important factual information of the history of the Quds, so that when we are conversing with others, that we be able to have a logical explanation to convince them. It's important for us to memorize some statistics that would help us. These are facts that are mentioned in records. For example, when Britain, as they're colonizing Palestine, they took a consensus, they made a count of how many Muslims and Jews are there. The count was approximately about 600,000 something Palestinians or Arabs, as they counted them, and about 80,000 Jews. Now that 80,000 is highly inflated, but nonetheless, how is it in a few years, those 80,000 all of a sudden own the entire country? It just makes no sense. So such facts like these will enable us to logically convince the others so that they would stop supporting the wrong cause. It's okay to try to gain the emotional support of others, because we have to realize that the occupiers of that place are being supported by worldly powers and strengths that get their strength from their own population. So if you're able to change that, we have a better chance. So those are the short terms. And after, inshallah, in the second khutbah, we'll talk about the long terms. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Now as for the long-term solutions, now men saying it's long-term because it takes time to do this. The reality is we do know the mechanism and the sunan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has placed to cause change. And how or who is supported by Allah. Which means that we ourselves, this is the first long-term action plan, ourselves need to change. We need to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, who do we have but Allah? Who do we have but Allah? No one. So shouldn't we return back to Him? Should we not come to our senses and realize that it is the path of Allah that is the best thing for us in this world and the hereafter? And that every calamity that befalls us is because maybe we have as overall the 1 point whatever how many billions are not exactly as we should be. Isn't it time for us to go back to our correct teachings and etiquettes, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He would like us to worship Him, to leave behind the personal disputes that are useless, the hatred between us that occurs in the bigotry, the backbiting that happens between us, the unnecessary selfishness that occurs between us. Isn't it time for us to leave all that and come back to the straight path? Because wallahi, the only people who will benefit is us as individuals, and then as families, and then as a society, and then as a ummah. That is the only true solution. It's time for us to come back in groups. We have to start it from the individuals. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the state of affairs of individuals until they change themselves. And it goes both ways, as I mentioned, which means if they are pious, they will be victorious. They will never lose it until they change. And similarly, if they are not pious and they're not victorious, that can change when they come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once again, we see this through history. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned to us. We don't need to look at history of Allah mentioned it because we know it's true, but still it's still there. It is time for the young brothers and sisters to realize how important they are as Muslims and come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's time for them to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He should be glorified. The second thing we need to do as an ummah, as a nation in terms of long-term plan, is to educate our next generation. To keep the history of Al-Aqsa from its first inception and building all the way until now, to teach them that history so that it would never die. That takes time. But it'll give them a beautiful concept that they have goals, that they have something of value that is part of their religion, that they would review the history of this and look at our pious predecessors, our ancestors in Islam. What did they do in order for us to get the Aqsa? But not just that, but it's how beautifully they practiced it. To the point that many of the people who were in Al-Aqsa became Muslims because of it. By the way, Al-Aqsa by Umar al-Khattab, when it was taken by treaty, by surrender, not by force. And you should read the contract that was made. It gave them their complete rights to stay safe, whatever they desired. It's a beautiful history that we need to teach our children, actively teach it. But unfortunately, even many of us in middle age, and perhaps even many of the adults, has lost touch with this. This is not something that is only for the Palestinians. But we're talking about the Aqsa. This is for the Muslims. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring this land back to us safely. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back to his path safely. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us what benefits us and benefit us from what he teaches us. اللهم اغفر لنا المؤمنات الاحياء منهم والاموات وارحمنا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم اسالك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم رد الينا فلسطين سالمه غانمه. اللهم رد الينا فلسطين سالمه غانمه. اللهم ارفع ايدي الخبثاء الذين يحتلونها. اللهم ارفع ايدي الخبثاء الذين يحتلونها عنها. اللهم انصر الاسلام والمسلمين واعز الاسلام والمسلمين وارفع رايتك يا ارحم الراحمين. واخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وعلى اله واصحابه اجمعين. عباد الله، ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. قوموا الى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله واذكروه يغفر لكم.